Welcome back to Rinkside. This is episode Ocho, that is number 8, and I am here with guest co-host David Leathers. Leathers,
What
it's a
up?
pleasure to have you back on to the Rinkside. How are you?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be back. I'm doing good though. How have you been, Pawtai? How are things in the off season?
Oh, they're doing well. Got a haircut. Been getting back on the Peloton. Had my 200th ride. Been making some crazy slides for the dinero in my real world, and doing a lot of different things. But it's coming together, so I'm real grateful to be here. We've got a pretty awesome show for you in store. Starting off with a recap of the finals. Then we've got our beloved plays of the week, and we've got 3 special segments for you today. World Cup analysis, a ranking of the teams from a quantitative perspective of Kevin Cushing. We have a special perspective on free agency with Cole Ramzcyk. And finally, a look into the championship team Arctic Wolves with Chris Lee. So let's get started with our congratulations to the winners. I wish I had some, graphics or something to show right now, but, shout out to the Alaska Arctic Wolves who took home the Gretzky Cup. Leathers, what'd you think of that series?
Oh, it's competitive series. Arctic Wolves. They've been a top team for so. I mean, just feels like every single season. Obviously in Dublin, we've feel like we play them all the time in the playoffs, and they took us out this year as well. And Vipers, they had such a great run this year, and they led the league in goal differential, and worthwhile opponent. And all the congrats to Alaska, though. I mean, that was a well deserved for a great cup run.
Exactly. And if you haven't seen the game, don't go on Twitch to watch it. Just watch the Rinkside recap. We're going to link the playlist in here. It has all the highlights from the series of the finals, and it's narrated by yours truly, so you get a great voice talking about things that you're watching. Next up, we've got the Miners, the champions, the Warsaw Warlocks. Shout out to everyone on the team. What a fantastic victory. Leathers, did you get a chance to watch that nail biter of a series?
I sure did. Wouldn't have missed it. Huge congratulations to all the Warlocks on roster, and is coached by yours truly, right, Pate, with the coaching championship there. So it was a very impressive run for you guys. I mean, I know the Miners. It was. I know we touched on it the last time I was on this show, but it was sort of very competitive throughout the season in the standings, and you guys really turned it on at when you needed to most, I guess, in the playoffs. So that was really fun to watch. And shout out to the Farmers as well. They had a great season, getting all the way to the championship series.
Yeah, absolutely. I forget, were the Farmers in the series, the finals last season?
Let's see. I know the Bucks won last season. I'm
Yeah,
trying
I
to remember
remember
who they.
the Bucks won, but I forget. Or there was
Yeah,
like a friendly rivalry with Saskatoon between the Bucks. So I don't know. Yeah, shout out to them. Um, Either way, let's move on to our plays of the week. So we're going to start things off with this one.
we've got. We're just talking about it. Here's a goal from the Warlocks. It's Kovalchuk to Payne, Payne to Reeves, and then Reeves just knocking it home. Put the Warlocks up 3-0 and this one. And I'm guessing it's from the finals series as
Yes,
well.
this is from game one, goal number 3 of the finals. And next up, we've got game 6 coming down. Kovalchuk's coming down the ice right now, and he tips it off to Reeves. Reeves shoots, misses. Reeves could have gotten discouraged here, but Reeves recovers and taps in that nice little goal. So again, Kovalchuk, kind of taking the lead. The reason I like this play really comes down to the determination of having failed and then, picking yourself back up and scoring one in a pretty hard position to do.
Sticking with the play, we love to see that. We do have yet another Warlocks goal right here. It's quite a bit of passing that goes on, but it's ultimately Jackson that taps it home there at the end. Set up really nicely though on the assist from, I believe that was from Reeves, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that was Game 7, goal number 2. That was the last goal in the series, the one that took it home. So very impressed with the performance there.
The clincher, yeah, appropriate to have on here on the highlights for sure. So, way to go, Jackson and Reeves, that one.
Exactly. So now we're shifting over from the minors finals to the prospects showcase. And up here, we've got a face-off. Shanahan wins the face-off, gets it to Dobbs. Dobbs, another Warlock. Boston Dobbs joined pretty late into the season, but had a few goals in the finals. Maybe just one. But here, showcasing Boston's talent once again. And I'm going to shift over to the next play.
And here we've got some more passing, and it's ultimately Payne that's scoring this one. Take one more look at it there off the face-off. Slap shot, and then just the wrap, like turn around, pick it up, and put it past the goalie. So, yeah, showing out in the prospect games, what you like to see. These games were a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a nice like 270, goal or something. As you're working your way up to the 1080. But yeah, that was Payne, another Warlock. So let's move on to our last play of the week. We have it's all tied up, third period. We've got Skion passes it to Joe to Skion to Dorgan. Dorgan shoots, misses. Then we got Alexander who recovers it, gets it to Scott to Joe, back to Dorgan to Joe. Skion, there's only 5 seconds left. Boom, the goal that wins it all for the NT. That not sure what the full name of that team is, but they took it night out and had a nice spectacular finish to this game. So let's see one more time as it closes out. Got Skion. And those were our plays of the week. So now we are going to move on over to our special segment with Kevin Cushing on the World Cup analysis. All right, welcome back to Rinkside. We're here with Colby, aka Kevin Cushing. How you doing today?
Not too bad. Glad to be back.
Hey, fantastic. We're glad to have you here today. I've heard you got a couple cool facts about the World Cup that you wanted to share with us to kick things off.
Yeah, I just ran some numbers on all the skaters. My apologies to the goalies. I left those out on accident, didn't realize it in time. But of the 144 skaters, only 43% came from the senior age group. So, they did a great job of trying to include players from all around. There's even 11 players from the minors. Of those, Turku actually had the most players with 16, and Norfolk had the fewest with 2.
Very interesting and insightful. And we have an exciting program for you here today. We're actually going to be ranking the World Cup teams by a quantitative, data-driven analysis. So let's kick things off. Starting with number 8, we have
USA West.
Oh, interesting.
If you're looking at their combined overall scores, again, this would just be for their skaters. It'd be 1,313. So all of these teams would actually be over the hard cap if they existed.
Very interesting. And who do we got coming in at number 7?
That would be the rest of the world with 1,335.
Rest of the world. What's your thoughts on rest of the world?
That one, it was kind of weird when they released it because they did, I want to say it was like Canada, then Europe, then rest of the world, and then to USA. So it seemed like that was going to be it. And that all the USA players were just going to be in the rest of the world category. I remember when I wasn't on that team thinking, oh man, I didn't make it.
But you did make it. So let's talk about number 6. Who do we got here?
Canada Red.
Canada Red.
And that one is the largest jump from 6 to 7 is pretty big. It goes from 1335 to 1371.
Interesting. And so we use cap to kind of determine the player value of each.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
I also have rankings by total attribute points and as well, but they didn't change, so that was
Okay.
disappointing. Yeah.
And what about number 5?
Staying in Canada, it moves to Canada White. Very minor difference, which is not surprising considering they just kind of split one region's players, but came in slightly higher at 1377.
77. So coming in at number 4, who do we got here?
Europe, all of Europe at 1396.
1396.
Actually, I was wrong earlier when I said the biggest jump was from rest of the world to Canada Red, because we got a huge jump coming up next.
Ooh, coming in at number 3, who do we have?
This is where Cushing ended up. USA South, 1,449 points.
Wow.
And this is their skaters alone, looking at their current cap hit, would have still been 1297. So even with the goalie, they would have been over the hard cap. So these are some great teams that we're getting to now.
And very humble of you to put yourself at number 3. So let's pull in number 2.
USA East, 1460.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. I think we're number 1. But all right, so 1460.
Well, you're number 1 in your group.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something.
Very cool. A lot of big names on here. And of course, then we've got number 1, which is USA North.
Yeah, and that one was a shame. You know, Rock Steele is in our locker room, and he was like, yeah, I wasn't even allowed to play on my own team. And maybe they should have let him because they were the strongest team. Bringing in a young player might have knocked him back down to mortality.
Yes. And what a great lineup here. We got David Leathers, Pawtai. Yeah, this team looks pretty stacked, if I don't say so. What do you think of this, Leathers?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree. I'm a little biased, obviously. The North is strong, but there's a lot of strong teams, and I'm interested to see like a lot of these matchups. The Canadian teams being so close, that should be interesting, and curious to see if the dark horse teams can pull some upsets. It should be a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun last season.
And last season you won the World Cup, isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think it was USA West. My memory serves.
Well, they had to redraw the districts, so to speak, this year.
Right. Yeah. There's more for sure this time around. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, there were competitive games in the World Cup last year as well, even with how it was drawn then. So I think they do a very good job with this, just overall putting it together and making it fun for everybody.
What do you think it takes to win the World Cup? You have these super power teams across, 8 different options, and one's going to walk away with the champion, the cup. What do you think does it take to get that cup?
For me personally, I would say it's kind of you kind of have to learn on the fly. I had a little experience of doing the All-Star game, doing strats and lines for that on short notice players that haven't played together really maybe ever. So that's part. I mean, just learning the lineup and learning how the players work together is part of it. But yeah, of course, you need like a good starting roster to begin with as well, I think. Yeah, that's what makes it fun, I think, is just getting to play with different people and seeing how they might mesh or what kind of lines you can draw up. It's kind of fun.
Excellent. Well, appreciate you coming on to give us your analysis, Cushing. Until the next one, we salute you and wish you the best. And now we're going to move over to our interview with Cole Ramzcyk on free agency. All right, and welcome back. We're joined today with Cole Ramzcyk. Ramzcyk, how you doing?
I'm happy to be on here. I'm doing good.
Well, welcome to Rinkside. Why don't you start off by telling our viewers a little bit about who you are in goals?
I am a defenseman, former Melbourne Marauder, current Florence Firebird. I play for the USA East in the World Cup, which, if I'm not mistaken, you're my coach.
That's right.
So, yeah. And I'm a two-way defenseman and recent free agent, and which is what I'm here to talk about.
Yeah, that was the next question I had for you actually is I know you're here to give our viewers insight into the world of free agency. So I'll hand it off to you to chat about it.
Well, first and foremost, I figured I'd go over why I was a free agent in the first place. And that was because, well, to be honest, I didn't have a choice. Melbourne didn't really have a spot for me. They said basically the owner didn't really like my build, so he just kind of let me walk. So I didn't really have a choice, but I think people need to keep in mind that that's always a possibility, that, you're never fully secured. Anything can happen. And that's kind of what happened with me because I wasn't really expecting to be a free agent.
And in life, there's things that we don't expect that kind of emerge, but
Yeah.
in the end, they kind of make us stronger. So, what would you say?
sure.
Maybe you could guide us a little bit through. You got the news that was pretty shocking, and then how did you kind of adapt to that situation?
Well, it was weird. We had talks at the prior trade deadline about trading me to a contender because my contract was going to be up. So I knew my contract was going to be up, but I figured I was one of the better players on the team. So the way I adapted was really just I built relationships with the owners that wanted me on their team, and I learned what the market that was out there for me, and yeah, I realized how valuable my player really was in the long run.
Sure. So you knew basically you were going into free agency. Obviously, was there any specific things you were seeking to find? I guess when you're chatting with some of these other owners, did it differ from team to team or general?
No, it was all the same for every team. I told every single owner that DM'd me, the same exact thing pretty much. What I was looking for was stability because I had been in the league for maybe four seasons, I think. And every single season I had been on a different team. So in some seasons I'd even been on two because I had gotten traded. So what I really wanted was a team that was gonna lock me down, stick with me, and I wouldn't just be viewed as like a trade asset. I wanted to be like a real part of the team and know I could stay there for a while. That was my main asking point. I also wanted to make sure I got the playing time that I deserved, the ice time, but mainly just stability. Yeah.
Well, excellent. It's great for you to understand, what you really want out of things,
hmm
and to be, you know, um, to stand up for yourself and be able to vocalize that to people
Yeah.
that are in positions of authority that can make opportunities happen. I'm kind of curious for other players in the league that find themselves in free agency. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I would say two main things. Number one is know your worth. You don't want anyone to undersell you or undercut you, I guess you could say. I would say push limits until teams start to say, all right, that's too much. Then you know when to back off. But I would say always know your value. And the second thing is have your priorities straight because if you're going to get a bunch of teams DMing you, and if you don't really know what you're looking for, you're basically just kind of playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for, know if a certain team will fit that for you or not. And you need to be able to narrow it down, I would say, and know what you're looking for because I would say probably 50% of free agents tested free agency because they wanted to, not because they were forced. And I think a lot of your priorities come from why you decided to test free agency in the first place. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we have so many teams in the league now. I think you know, they're all very different. I would say, or at least maybe certain aspects of how they run the teams are different for sure. So I can totally appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know, Pawtai, did you have any closing thoughts or questions for Cole? I think that's all I got here.
Yeah, I think you reflected on your experience. You were open to sharing that with others. I think there's, strength in vulnerability and being able to be honest and to be able to let others learn from those experiences. I think, says a lot about you as a player and as a teammate. So, Cole, wanted to thank you for coming on to the show
No
tonight.
problem,
This
for
was
sure.
a great,
It was fun.
insightful interview and a great piece and perspective on free agency.
Yep. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And now we're going to wrap up with our final interview with Chris Lee of the Alaska Arctic Wolves. All right, and we're back here with Chris Lee from the Alaska Arctic Wolves. Chris, this is a pleasure to have you on. We'd love to put our viewers into the the Wolves den at the height of the championship and throughout the series. But let's start off. Why don't you just give a little overview of who you are as a player and goals?
Well, I'm Chris Lee, as you said. I've been given the title of progression guru from some members of our team, primarily because I do all the progression suggestions. But I don't really think they know what guru means because I definitely just guess and get lucky at times.
Hey, that's important. Leathers, you've provided some progression suggestions, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. That's more so on the dragon specifically. It's kind of like Rose's thing, but I've definitely assisted with that as well. But I know what you mean, Chris. It sort of feels like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks sometimes.
Definitely.
But yeah, so we can hop into the questions then, Pawtai. I can start it. Start us.
Yeah. I think we just asked the first one, so you can take the second.
Okay, so this is a fun one for you, Chris. How do you feel about taking home the season 4 Gretzky Cup? Tell me about the experience.
We're super excited. It was each season, 1, 2, and 3. We've been so close, yet so far, and the feeling to finally close the deal and come home with that cup. It was definitely nerve-wracking throughout the playoffs. We definitely had to overcome some adversity, but it just feels very great.
And what do you feel attributed to the success of the Alaska Arctic Wolves throughout the playoffs this season?
I will drop 2 names, Krieg and McBride. They both showed up huge throughout the playoffs. Krieg scored tremendously. He got a lot of goals throughout the playoffs. Of course, playing like 20 games helps. But McBride, he just wouldn't give up. He kept trying to make saves every time he could, and everything mattered. Neither of them gave up throughout the playoffs, and it really showed.
Yeah, absolutely. Great individual performances from out of those guys. So the next question we have for you is: was there a team in the playoffs that you felt was most challenging for you guys to play against, or is it sort of even across the board?
So personally, I was most worried about the Dragons. If I recall properly, you guys took us out of the playoffs last season, and you had great showing throughout this regular season. But I was probably the most nervous going into Game 4 of Turkey, possibly. It's a little toss up on that. But the Game 4 against Turkey was, are we going to end our playoffs already?
Yeah, that must have been an on the seat thriller. I'm curious. So, no team has taken championships in back to back years. What makes AAW different for this upcoming season?
Well, we thankfully have done a good job of retaining almost all of our players. I believe we only lost one. And really, the core of the team is pretty solid. And I've taken a lot of the time with Craig to discuss what we want to do next season to advance our players and make ourselves even more of a competitive team. There's definitely were some spots where we felt we were weaker, and we're definitely going to be patching up those, hopefully, patching up those weaknesses.
For sure. I feel like you guys have been solid. Alaska's, formerly Philadelphia, has always been tough out in this league. So I'm sure I would imagine that to continue. But stepping just away from talking about Alaska for a second, I think there's a question that Pawtai always looks to ask on this show. Where do you see the league going? And so maybe say 5 years down the road or so. We're about a little over a year in, for context, at the current time.
They're doing a great job. The league has obviously had its growing pains here and there, but that's to be expected. A lot of it depends on what they decide to do with the game engine and what it offers. With a lot of the sim sports, you're usually relegated to what do you have available to you to be able to do. I don't see any major changes coming from uh, the way things will progress or anything like that. I feel it's pretty solid there. It's just a lot of what does the next generation of games offer that the current one doesn't have.
That's very true, unless we all team up together and build our own game, and then we could have Sims forever, ongoing, just hosted in the cloud. In closing, I wanted to get your thoughts. What shout outs or visibility do you want to bring to anyone or causes that you support?
Well, I kind of already hinted at it, but the league staff in general, they do a lot of hard work. As I was unofficially part of the staff for the SSF, I know exactly what goes into this, being good friends with both Eagle and Winkler. I seen everything they went through on the back end. Well, I seen a lot of what they went through, not everything. And obviously, as we've had growing pains, it's what are they going to do? How do they handle it? And they've done a really good job with all that. And if they continue moving forward, I think things will keep getting better year after year, season after season.
Yeah, I second that. I know our league staff puts in a lot of work to keep this thing going and make this fun for all of us to enjoy. So for sure, 100%.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
So certainly shout out to all league staff and team staff, people that aspire to be staff. We're saluting you today. Well, Chris, thanks so much for hopping on. This was a really exciting interview. We got to dive back into that den and see what burrowed out. So thanks for bringing us in, and best of luck in the upcoming season.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Hey, and thanks so much for joining us. It was a great experience this evening. Leathers, how did you feel about the show tonight?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had some great insight from all the guests that came on about various topics around the league of interest currently, and the highlights. Fun to watch as always. Looking forward to the World Cup coming up. And give us some more stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. So till the next one, and don't forget to subscribe.